post-war land, air, and sea forces. Here now is U.S. Army combat veteran and national security expert Ricoh Danielson. Ricoh, thank you very much for being here with us today. Once again on News Nation, we appreciate you always.
Rock and roll. Looking forward to it.
All right, thank you. Okay, so let's start here. Could we see foreign troops on the ground? That's obviously a very huge concern.
Yeah, I believe that the United States and also the UK and different NATO elements already have foreign troops already within the region, not necessarily on the ground. There are foreign fighters and also volunteer forces of the United States that do not represent the United States, but there are whole battalions over there, a couple hundred men over there fighting that are American. And Vladimir Putin, President Putin said it the best. He said, hey, if there's a foreign fighter, whether it's the United States or someone different, it's a fair game, fair target, and rightfully so on the battlefield. Anybody who has a weapon and anybody who is doing any sort of combative maneuvers is a target. Unfortunately, we're going to find ourselves in a position where we will be sending troops there, not only for strength and stability, but for regional stability and show of force.
Yeah, it's something that needs to be understood moving forward. And a European delegation is set to travel to Washington, D.C. to work with the U.S. over imposing sanctions on Russia. So when we take a look at that angle, when could we see President Trump ramp up pressure on Russia? You know, timing is everything, right?
Yeah, I think we're already starting to see it from the renaming of a Department of Defense to Department of War. If that doesn't send a clear message not only to Venezuela, Israel, Iran, and also now Ukraine and Russia, that the United States is in the business of war, and the United States economy does extremely well when we're at war. And so now we're positioning ourselves and telling the world that, hey, we're about to go to war or conflict, and we have no problem doing it. So I would imagine by the end of the year, we will probably be in a couple of different regional battles here.
And I just wanted to ask you your personal opinion. What did you think when you saw that the name was going to change?
So a few different conflicts here, right? One is I'm a big time person of defense and whatnot. You should defend the homeland and whatnot. But when you say the statement of war, that's a very intentional thing and something, unfortunately, the United States, we're really good at. We're really great at being at war. And when you make the stance of saying Department of War, that tells the world that we're going to war.
Also, I wanted to turn to the war in Israel while we're on it, a heavy milestone as we mark more than 700 days since the October 7th attacks. Hard to believe. It comes as the IDF is ramping up its attacks in Gaza, calling on Palestinians to leave the area. President Trump addressing the latest in a ceasefire talks. Let's take a listen to that.
We're in very deep negotiation with Hamas. We said, let them all out right now, let them all out. And much better things will happen for them. But if you don't let them all out, it's going to be a tough situation. It's going to be nasty. Well, it's 20 people, but I think of the 20, there could be some that have recently died, is what I'm hearing. I hope that's wrong. But you have over 30 bodies in this negotiation.
Now, Trump is saying that some of the remaining living hostages may have recently died, too. So how would that impact negotiations? And what do you make of what he said there in that bite?
Yeah, unfortunately, during a hostage negotiation, especially in this turmoil where Israel is continually hitting Gaza and also Palestine in different areas, unfortunately, the attrition of war and also conflict will more likely take its toll. I hate saying this, but I wouldn't be surprised if those 20 people are still alive. And if anything, their bodies should be, obtained and also buried within their motherland and whatnot. And this puts the positioning back onto Hamas and saying, Israel and the United States had made it very, very well known that Hamas is now a terrorist organization and they do not negotiate terrorist organizations. And Hamas is unfortunately starving its people, not only from water, food, and power and whatnot. And then on the other constraint, they have to be very mindful that Israel is going to continue doing what it does best. And it's a war machine, and it's going to continue to cause constraints. I think we're at a point here now where humanitarian crisis is no longer a consequence. It's not just a consequence of war. It is a central factor of negotiation for war now.
You can't help but think about the mothers and the fathers and the families of hostages who are now turning to President Trump, watching all of this. And when we talked about the length of time that their hearts, that they're just holding on for hope. This after protesting the recent military action, saying that the Israeli government isn't prioritizing their loved ones. So when you take a look at that, what kind of pressure does this place on Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu as these families are looking for answers?
Yeah, so the pressure is actually needed from Netanyahu on top of Netanyahu and also the United States to say, hey, guys, we're the biggest war machine here. Why can't we go get this? Why can't this be fixed immediately? So I think it's a good pressure to have on Netanyahu and also on the President of the United States. And that's just my personal perspective and personal opinion. But at the same aspect, the more pressure that's been applied, the more pressure is going to be redirected to Hamas. So there has to be mindful resolution here real soon. And the people and the hostages have to be retrieved, dead or alive.
You know, Trump is also reportedly considering ramping up restrictions for some high-level delegations during the UN General Assembly this month. I want to turn to New York City because we've got that gearing up. We're already seeing some of the action on the streets here, including banning Iranians from shopping at Costco without state permission. So that's another angle that we're taking a look at. Wholesale stores are favorites of diplomats who could buy large amounts of products not available in their country and send them home. So I don't know. I mean, what do you think about what purpose does a ban like that serve? Is it messaging?
I see the value in what he's doing and the position of that. However, punishing everybody who happens to be Iranian or Palestinian or whomever is sending the wrong message, right? You cannot restrict people's food. At that point, you're kind of riding the line of sharing those equal values of our opponent here, right? So we have to be very mindful of saying, hey, our U.S. Food fundamentals and money should be within the United States and should not go overseas. But at the same aspect, punishing everybody just because you have a good portion of a demographic causing rhetoric is not a good look on the United States.
Yeah, well, we'll see how that plays out. The UN General Assembly getting ready to get started here in New York City here very soon. U.S. Army combat veteran Ricoh Danielson, thank you so much for joining us as always. Good to see you. And former Biden staffers in the hot seat. What lawmakers are hoping to learn when Biden's former press secretary testifies this week. We'll get into that next.